Hello everyone and welcome to another Top Tips for Archaeology graduates. Today we're joined by Chloe. Hi Chloe, how are you this evening?
I'm good.
Thank you very much for making the time to do this interview. Chloe is a social media manager. So maybe Chloe, you could tell us a little bit about what your job entails and what does that mean? What does being a social media manager entail?
So a lot of being a social media manager is kind of, well, it's in the name. It's managing social media, essentially. It's like, so primarily I work with Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube and Facebook. Looking to branch out to TikTok, but I'm not quite there yet. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Day to day, a lot of like doing presentations, pulling on data and things like that as well. But day to day, it's mostly reactive social, which is responding to people, and coming up with a lot of like fun campaigns and things like that. So around like Halloween and Christmas, there's a real creative element there to like think of fun things to engage your audience and things like that.
Can I ask, what do you enjoy about your role? What are the kind of things about being a social media manager that you enjoy?
I love the fact it seems to be like a bit of a between point of being really creative and being really analytical. It's like, it's really nice for my brain, because you have the like data aspect of it, which is dealing with like graphs and like the actual statistics of like how you're doing and like the numbers. And then there's also like I was saying, the what can we give away at Christmas this time to make people more interested in our brand, and like what can I tell the graphics designers to make now, or what weird thing can I write today. And it's like, I'd say the creative element is the thing I most like, but I like the fact that there's a lot of data as well, so it's like my brain doesn't get too rusty in that regard.
Sounds a lot like archaeology, actually. Like there's a lot of data, but also we need to be creative with it because we don't have all the data sets and everything.
Yeah, in a weird way.
Can I ask the other side of that then, is what do you find more challenging about your role?
Sometimes it can be quite fast paced, which obviously I know a lot of students and stuff, and I did as well, did like retail and things like that. So it's not quite as fast paced as that. So in some respects it's a bit of a break, but at times, sometimes you can get like nothing, or like no messages and nothing really to do for a little while, and then all of a sudden you've got like 50 people messaging you because the other social media managers just like boosted a post, and suddenly everyone has seen it at the same time, and it's like but I think that's pretty much it. The company I work for is phenomenal as well, so I think I got really lucky in that regard.
So there's a lot of thinking on your feet, and sometimes when that gets a bit pressured, it can be a bit challenging. Yeah. So can I ask you how you got into your role? Because I know you only graduated very recently, so this is the kind of the first job that you've had since you finished your degree. How did you go about finding the job and interviewing for the role?
So while at university, I actually had a social media intern role with the Access and Outreach department. So a lot of it was putting that front and center on my CV, and being like, I'm interested in social media roles, I have experience, here you go. And then it was pretty much just, I sent it off to people online. It was nothing more. Like, I would love to be one of those people that was on LinkedIn and was like, yeah, I was scouted for all this, but I just applied online. It was there was a lot of interviews. There was quite a lot to it, but the company specifically I worked for sent me a document as soon as they offered me the first interview, with like the entire process labelled out, and it was like, yeah, there'll be 3 interviews and you expect to hear back from us in this date range. And it was very, very organised. It was very nice. But one of them was like a phone interview, so I think a lot of people are probably quite used to phone interviews, especially given COVID has happened. But it's basically just standard, like what you're looking for, like what are your skills, that sort of thing. The second one was more specialised, so it was still a standard interview questions because it was with different people. It was with my now managers as opposed to the recruiter, and they asked a lot of like competency-based questions, just to see if I actually knew what I was talking about, which I did, luckily. And then the third interview, they asked me to make well, they didn't ask me to make a presentation, but I did because I'm extra. They was like, we want you to research our competitors and come to us with loads of advice and loads of things like that. And I was like, I know how to make a good presentation. So I made a huge presentation and was like, I'm gonna like just talk for half an hour. Feel free to stop me. And I got the job. All lovely, all good. It was actually quite a streamlined process, but yeah, it was nothing too exciting. I just applied online.
But it sounds like actually you put a lot of effort into parts of this, researching this. Like you really they set you a task to do a presentation and you went away and really put a lot of time and effort in, and no wonder they were impressed. Yeah. It
was a lot of time. Like I don't think I've ever put that much effort into a job application before, because it was, I think I must have spent like a good 8 hours researching all of their competitors and pulling every single screenshot, so I wasn't just, it didn't sound like I was just making things up, and I had like 12 pages of notes, and I was like, one second, I've just got to flip through about 50 pages, but it worked out in the end, so effort pays off, I guess.
Yeah, the effort really pays off. So can I ask you how you draw on your archaeology degree in your current role? I guess I'm talking here more about transferable skills than necessarily specific things you learned in the degree, but maybe there are specific things that you covered in the degree which you do draw on.
So obviously I think because they're so different in that regard, like we've got social media, which is like tech and like the future, and then archaeology, which is like the past. It's very different in that regard. But I think the presentations is a huge one. Like I think in my undergrad during archaeology, it was like we obviously did a lot of presentations, but that was so useful because it means that now I can just go away and just make a like professional presentation without really thinking about it, and I can do public speaking without really don't really pay any attention. I would just stand up in a room of 100 people, say my piece, and then sit down without really worrying at all, which is something I never would have expected. But I think as far as like the transferable skills from the degree go, that's definitely it. As well as that, dealing with data is a huge one. I did a BSc, so maybe it was slightly more data than maybe a BA, but there is obviously always data in an archaeology degree. It is archaeology. So I think the being able to like make pretty graphs and being able to actually interpret them and deal with data in a way was exceptionally useful, because now I look at data and I get it. Whereas before I came into my degree, it was just a bit like, this is too much, you know?
So yeah, the presentations and handling data are things that you found really useful. I think a lot of people I've spoken to on this have said, you know, the presentations really make them stand out. But for me, I think one of the things that's unique about archaeology is how we use data in narratives, and how we use really different sources of data to pull together a narrative. And it sounds like you managed to do that in your job interview and now in your job every day. So can I finally ask you my last question, which is, what are your top tips for anyone who wants to follow in your footsteps? Loads of our students are interested in social media and in these kinds of roles that you might find in a museum or for a country house, or for those kinds of positions, as much for companies as well.
This is going to sound really cliche, but just apply to absolutely everything. The worst anyone is ever going to say to you is no. And if you put yourself out there, the more you put yourself out there, the more people are going to be interested in you. Because if you're constantly putting yourself out there, even if you're not really confident, it comes across as confident. And people and employers especially like that a lot, because it's like, oh, this is someone who knows what they're doing. You might not know what you're doing, but they don't have to know that. Which I think is the real thing. And I also think getting experience while at uni, because uni is basically 3 years of time where you can just go ham. Like obviously you're doing a degree as well and trying to like make friends and navigate being like an adult. But ultimately you have the time and the space to be able to really invest in yourself and invest in your future. And I think doing things like, I don't know, applying to be a secretary of a society that's got like a little bit of social media in it. So if you maybe try that. If there is no society you want to do, obviously there's the whole thing of just make one up and become a secretary, appoint yourself. Like it's really, I know I'm just saying it, but it really is that easy. And I think the more you just put yourself out there and just do things, even if you end up hating them, at least now you know, well, I'm not going to do that again. You know, you'd much rather do it while at uni and try everything then and commit yourself to a job and then be like, this isn't for me.
I think that's really sound advice, and making most of the 3 years that you have at uni to explore different things, because that's the chance when you get to sort of work out what you like without it mattering, and you've got your degree to fall back on anyway at that time. Okay, Chloe, thank you so much. That's really fantastic advice that you've given there, and it was so interesting to hear about how you're getting on, and we wish you all the luck in your role, and I hope we'll be able to catch up again at some point. So thank you to Chloe, thank you to everyone else for watching. Join us again next time for more top tips for archaeology graduates.